Aisha is a woman from a noble family in New York City. She is an extremely pious and modest woman. She always wore an extra-large hijab and loose-fitting clothes that beautifully covered her chest and her entire body, so that her modesty was never compromised. Every day she would go to the office with her husband Hassan, driving through the city's congested streets. Like other Americans, this traffic was a very common thing for them. But whenever the car stopped at a red light, something would happen that touched Aisha's heart. Whenever their car stopped in traffic or at a signal, small children would surround the car. Some would sell things, some would ask for help, and among them was Zayed. He was a beautiful, innocent boy of about 10 to 12 years old. Sometimes he would run to their car with balloons. Sometimes he would have Islamic books in his hand, and other times he would sell colorful flowers. Aisha really liked his innocent face and sweet words. One day he came to their car and said, "Auntie, please take a balloon." Very beautiful, colorful balloons. Aisha smiled and asked, "What will I do with these?" Zayed said, "Auntie, give them to your children. Your children will be very happy." Aisha laughed and said, "Oh, I don't have any children." Zayed shook his head innocently and said, "Auntie, please take them. I haven't sold a single one since morning." This sentence struck a chord in Aisha's heart. She bought 2 balloons from Zayed, and their car moved forward. Several days later, Aisha saw Zayed standing at the same signal in New York again, but this time he had some books in his hand. Aisha smiled and asked, "What's the matter?" "No balloons." "Today," Zayed said very innocently. "Auntie, balloons pop, and that causes a lot of loss. Take a book today. The price is only $20. Despite not needing it, Aisha bought the book. Gradually, a strange affection began to grow between the two, and Aisha started to really like Zayed. Every time she passed through there, Aisha would buy something from him and quietly place some dollars in his palm, which would bring a beautiful smile to Zayed's face. That innocent smile acted like a soothing balm on Aisha's heart. But the next day, when Aisha's car stopped at the signal, her eyes suddenly fell upon some books scattered on the side of the road. Immediately, she thought of Zayed. Aisha began to look out of the car window anxiously. Her heart began to thud loudly. Just then, a few children ran to their car and asked, "Madam, are you looking for Zayed?" "Yes, where is he?" The children said. "Madam, he just had an accident a little while ago." Aisha's breath seemed to catch in her throat. How did this happen? How is he? One child said, "Madam, a car hit him and drove away. His head is split open. The local people took him to the hospital, but we heard people saying that it's very difficult for him to survive." Aisha's hands began to tremble. Involuntarily, tears began to flow from her eyes. Aisha felt a strange pain in her heart, but she had no idea that this pain was not just for a street child, but rather, this accident was about to bring the greatest truth of her life to light. A truth that, upon hearing, would reopen the old wounds Aisha had kept hidden for years. Because that innocent child, Zayed, was none other than her own lost son, who had been taken away from her right after birth due to a forced circumstance. The moment Aisha heard that there was little hope for Zayed's survival, she said in a panicked voice, "Can you take me to his house?" The children immediately said, "Yes, Auntie, he lives right next to our house." Aisha looked at her husband Hassan. Irritation and restlessness were clear in Hassan's eyes too. Aisha said, "Hassan, let me off here. I don't feel right. I must go. See him." Hassan sighed and said, "All right, go. I have to open the store, but whatever happens, call me immediately." Hassan dropped her off there. Aisha took a small child with her. She got into a yellow cab, taxi, and headed with a terrified heart toward the street where Zayed lived. After going a little further, the child asked to stop the cab, but as soon as Aisha got out of the car, her eyes fell upon an elderly woman. Aisha was stunned to see her. It's that woman. She knew that woman very well. The elderly woman also froze upon seeing Aisha and immediately burst into tears. She said in a trembling voice, "I couldn't save your son." The ground slipped from under Aisha's feet. "What? Was that my son Zayed?" The old woman wiped her tears and said, "Yes, that was your Zayed." As soon as she heard this, Aisha began to scream and cry. "How unfortunate am I? After all these years, my son was standing in front of me, and I couldn't even recognize him." Aisha said while crying, "Where is he? How is he now? I have to see him." Hearing the sound of Aisha's crying on the street, other women of the area also began to gather. One asked, "Who is she? Why is she so restless?" Zayed's grandmother wiped her tears and said, "Oh, she is his real mother." Upon hearing this, a pin-drop silence fell over the entire street. No one could believe how the child of a woman from such a wealthy American family was living on the streets in this condition. Aisha was crying out, "Zayed, my child Zayed." Her painful screams made the whole area heavy with grief. To understand this truth about Zayed and Aisha, we have to go back in time a little. It was 2015. Aisha was only 19 years old then. While living in Chicago, she developed a romantic relationship with a Muslim boy named Tariq. They both wanted to get married, but Aisha's family was strictly against this relationship. After failing to convince her family despite a million attempts, Aisha finally ran away from home one day and married Tariq. They both rented a small apartment in that city and started living together. But because of this step, Aisha's family severed all ties with her. A year later, Aisha gave birth to a beautiful baby boy whom they named Zayed. Right at that time, Aisha learned a truth that completely destroyed her happy life. Someone told her that her husband Tariq was involved with a dangerous underworld gang in America. For money, he did not hesitate to kill people. Aisha tried to explain to him many times, "This path is not right. You will see that one day these very people for whom you are doing all this will kill you and our lives will be destroyed." Despite Aisha's constant pleas, Tariq did not change, and then exactly what Aisha always feared happened. One day, Tariq's enemies killed him. After Tariq's death, Aisha completely broke down. Now she had no place to stay, nor any support. She couldn't go back to her father's house either. If she had anything left, it was only her child Zayed. Now Zayed was Aisha's only reason for living. However, in the meantime, Aisha's parents also received the news of Tariq's death. They came to Aisha and said, "Daughter, what's done is done, but you are still young. We will marry you off again, but there is one condition. You must forget this child." Aisha was stunned to hear this. She said in a stuttering voice, "How can I give up my child?" Her family members explained to her, "If this child stays with you, who will marry you?" Meanwhile, Tariq's parents also arrived there. They also explained to Aisha, "Daughter, you get married again. We will be the ones to raise Zayed. He is our blood too." After much thought and with tearful eyes, Aisha handed over her innocent Zayed to his grandparents and left with her parents. To make her forget her past, Aisha's parents arranged her marriage to a boy named Hassan. The boy was very good and religious. So, after a few meetings and conversations, both families finalized the marriage of Hassan and Aisha. But at the foundation of this relationship, a very big truth was hidden. Aisha's past was kept completely secret from Hassan. He was told that Aisha was unmarried. A few days later, they were married with great pomp. After the marriage, Aisha moved to New York. Hassan lived in New York. Hassan was so impressed by Aisha's beauty, her large hijab, and her modesty that after the marriage he would tell everyone, "I have married the best girl in the world." Hassan had a large mobile and electronics store in Manhattan, New York, which employed many staff. His business was so good that there was never a lack of money in the house. Gradually, Aisha also started helping her husband in his business. They worked together, sat and drank coffee together. Aisha was living a very happy life with her husband. But look at the game of fate. Just as Aisha's world was settling down, another storm hit the life of her abandoned son, Zayed. At that time, Zayed's grandfather suddenly passed away. Right after his death, the situation at home began to deteriorate. Zayed's aunt started quarreling every day and taunting them, This child's mother left him and ran away. Why should we raise him? Send him to an orphanage. At least some burden will be reduced. But Zayed's grandmother was as firm as a mountain. She would say, "He is my Tariq. He is the last memory of my son. I will not let him go anywhere." Quarrels over Zayed happened every day. One day, Zayed's eldest paternal aunt came there. She saw mental pressure and quarrels everywhere in the family. The aunt told the grandmother, "Mother, if there is so much quarreling in the house, then give Zayed to me. I have 2 sons of my own. I will take him with me to New York as well." The grandmother immediately shook her head and said, "No, I can't trust anyone. As long as I'm alive, he will stay with me." The aunt explained, "All right, mother, then you come with me too." In this way, Zayed came to New York City in America with his grandmother. Time passed. Zayed was now 10 years old. He had become somewhat restless and was trying to understand the world in his own way. One day, he saw American children his age returning home with money every day. Zayed asked them, "Where do you get so much money from?" The children laughed and said, "We go to the cars standing at the red signals in New York and ask people for eat." Zayed also felt the desire to earn money. He said, "I will also go with you from tomorrow." But his grandmother strictly forbade him. "Son, begging is a very bad thing," Zayed said with a mischievous smile. "Grandmother, I won't beg. I will sell balloons," even if she wanted to. His grandmother couldn't stop him anymore. Thus, Zayed bought some balloons and started selling them at the red signal. Sometimes flowers, sometimes balloons, sometimes Islamic books. Whatever he felt was good, he would sell. But in the meantime, on an unknown path, his real mother, Aisha, had also entered his life. The two of them would come face to face every day. Maternal affection would well up in Aisha's heart whenever she saw him. But she considered it merely a coincidence. Even though they were so close, they were strangers to each other. Aisha would cry in her heart every day, remembering her son. But her parents had strictly forbidden her to ever mention Zayed's name, even by mistake, because if anyone found out, her marriage would break. So she remained silent. She hid her tears, and if she ever went to her father's house, she could only find out that Zayed had moved to New York with his aunt. What a strange coincidence. Mother and son were in the same city. They stood on the same street and even talked to each other. But the memories had become very blurred. Aisha had asked his name many times, asked about his family, and Zayed had told her that he lived with his grandmother. But she didn't know that this grandmother was the woman who had raised her son. However, today, when Aisha reached his house while looking for Zayed and saw the grandmother standing in front of her, her eyes widened in surprise, and the years-old memories became fresh again. A sharp pang of maternal agony twisted in her chest. "Is he really my son, Zayed?" the grandmother said in a trembling voice. "Yes, daughter, that is your Zayed. But today he had an accident," Aisha screamed. "Where is he? I have to go see him right now." The grandmother informed her that he had been taken to the hospital. His aunt didn't know much about his condition either. They only knew that he had been seriously injured. One of the women standing nearby took her hand and said, "Come, sister, we are taking you to the hospital." Aisha immediately set off with them. Upon reaching the hospital, Zayed's aunt started crying uncontrollably seeing her. She informed her that the doctors were saying Zayed's chances of survival were very low. Aisha said in a trembling voice, "Don't say such things. Pray to Allah so that he doesn't leave me." In this way, 6 hours passed. To Aisha, every minute felt as heavy as a mountain. The ICU door was closed. Inside, Zayed was fighting for his life. Meanwhile, Aisha's phone was ringing constantly. Her husband Hassan had been calling for quite a while. Finally, Aisha picked up the phone and said in a trembling voice, "Hassan, there is no hope for that child's survival. Forgive me. I cannot return today." Hassan was surprised. He asked, "Have you reached the hospital? And what are you saying?" "He has parents or someone, right? They will handle everything. Now, how could Aisha explain to him that the boy he considered a stranger was Aisha's own flesh and blood, whom she had hidden from the world for all these years? She only said, "Hassan, I can't talk on the phone right now." Then Aisha hung up the phone. A while later, an American doctor came out. The marks of fatigue and worry were clear on his face. Aisha asked the doctor, "Doctor, how is my son now?" The doctor said, "If the patient regains consciousness within 72 hours, he will gradually recover. Otherwise, it is difficult to say anything." Those 3 days felt like 3 years to Aisha. Finally, on the third day evening, the doctor came with a smile and said, "The boy has regained consciousness. You can see him now." Hearing this news, they all hugged each other and cried. Aisha ran inside. Zayed's eyes were half open. He said in a weak voice, "Auntie, have you come?" Aisha looked at him with a gaze full of love. She stroked his head and said while crying, "Son, I am not your auntie. I am your mother." She pulled Zayed to her chest, and the years of pain, waiting, and love were all washed away in her tears. The doctor explained to Aisha not to talk too much with the child now and to let him rest. Aisha hadn't called Hassan for the last 3 days. Her mobile was also switched off. On the other hand, Hassan had become extremely restless with worry for Aisha. Finally, he inquired and reached Zayed's house, and there he learned Aisha's true reality. He immediately reached the hospital. He said angrily, "You have deceived me. From today, our relationship ends here." Aisha listened to everything silently. Now, what else did she have left besides Zayed? And now Aisha did not want to lose Zayed a second time in any way. A week later, Zayed returned home. Aisha began to take care of him. When she called Hassan, he didn't even pick up the phone. But 10 days later, Hassan suddenly arrived at Zayed's house with his family members. Aisha burst into tears, seeing them. Her mother-in-law hugged her and said, "Daughter, don't cry. Come, let's go back home." Hearing this, Aisha got scared and stepped back. "I will not go anywhere leaving my son." The mother-in-law smiled and said, "Who said you have to leave? Him. Instead, your son, his grandmother, and all of us will live together." Hassan came forward after a long time and said, "Come, Aisha, I can't live without you either." And in this way, the family that had broken was mended again. At that time, Aisha was 2 months pregnant. In time, she gave birth to a beautiful baby boy. A few years later, they also had a daughter. Now Aisha, Zayed, and his younger siblings are all living a happy life together in America. This story teaches us that no matter how much love one finds in life, there can be no greater shelter than one's parents. Without a mother's affection and a father's hard work, the existence of any relationship is incomplete. Therefore, no step should be taken that brings tears to the eyes of one's parents for a lifetime just for one's temporary happiness. Friends, if you like the story, please like and share. This story is completely fictional. It has been created for entertainment and educational purposes only. It has no connection with any real event or person. We create these videos only to educate people. Hope these videos of ours will be useful to you. And if you want to get more videos like this, then give this video a like, and if you don't want to miss any video, then definitely subscribe to our Islamic Tales channel for more such educational stories. Friends, this was our video for today. Please let us know in the comments which country you watch this video from, and if you want to hear more emotional stories like this, then please give this video a like right now and subscribe to the Islamic Tales YouTube channel.